From Illinois Public Media, this is the 21st Show. I'm Brian Mackey. And we begin today with a review. The year 2025 has been a long one, with events moving fast at home and around the world. We've worked to cover at least some of what's happened from an Illinois and Midwestern perspective. You'll hear the good and the bad, the inspiring and the tragic, and everything in between as it happened and as we covered it here on the 21st Show. I want to turn now to norovirus. It's been getting a lot of attention this year.
And even just this past December, we recorded 84 norovirus outbreaks around the state. This compares to 49 in December 2018, 36 in December 2019.
People in the Los Angeles region are bracing for another day of what the National Weather Service calls a particularly dangerous situation. That is a rare warning beyond the typical red flag conditions and signifies the kind of high winds and low humidity that has led to what's projected to be the most damaging wildfire in American history.
Across the Los Angeles region, the skies were covered in smoke as fast-growing wildfires spread from winds that gusted to nearly 100 miles per hour.
This is as bad as I've ever seen, and of course, as a fire chief, I have the responsibility of overseeing public safety for such a beautiful town.
At least 10 people have been killed.
16 people are now reported to have died in the fires.
At least 24 people have died. About 24 more are missing, and a number of communities have been reduced to ash.
Four years after an unprecedented transition of power that followed months of election denial and an attack on the U.S. Capitol, Donald J. Trump is once again President of the United States.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
A man has been arrested following a car crash that killed two people in Urbana. Normally this would not be, a story of widespread statewide interest or national interest as this story is becoming.
But on Wednesday, we got a third release saying that the U.S. Marshals had located the driver of the car that hit the initial car. They stopped him in Texas. He was on a bus that was headed to Mexico. He was identified as a Mexican national living in Urbana. But on Thursday, we had another release saying that that initial information of him being a Mexican national living in the city was not correct. His name was an alias, and he was actually a citizen of Guatemala.
All this hour, we are talking about the Trump administration's attempt to freeze federal grants and loans from going out, a move that caused mass confusion.
People would not be paid for critical services rendered in basically every bucket you can think about in state governance, not just here in Illinois, but across the country. It caused immediate and unnecessary confusion, chaos, and many individuals, frankly, panic. This situation continues to be basically as clear as mud.
A significant moment in Illinois history came Wednesday morning at the Dirksen Federal Courthouse in Chicago. That's where a jury found former Speaker of the Illinois House, Michael Madigan, guilty on some, but not all, of the charges in his federal corruption trial.
So as a result, Mike Madigan is now officially a felon in Illinois and joins this long parade of sad cases of Illinois politicians.
The president and so-called DOJ department head Elon Musk are going after USAID, which provides humanitarian assistance around the world.
The sudden stoppage of funding for USAID projects is going to reverberate not just domestically, not just in Illinois, but across the country and across the world.
I'm Brian Mackey, broadcasting today from the Illinois Capitol building in Springfield. We are about 36 minutes away from Governor J.B. Pritzker delivering his combined State of the State and budget address.
The authoritarian playbook is laid bare here. They point to a group of people who don't look like you and tell you to blame them for your problems.
At the end of last year, more than 80,000 federal workers were based in Illinois. those workers have been a prominent target in the administration's drive to aggressively cut the headcount of the federal government, and in some cases seek to eliminate entire government agencies.
What did you do last week? That's the question Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency team insist all federal workers must answer in an email.
On Wednesday, Brandon Johnson became the first Chicago mayor to testify before the Congress in almost 2 decades. He was invited there to defend the city's sanctuary status in front of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform.
We still have a long way to go, but sensationalizing tragedy in the name of political expediency is not governing. It's grandstanding.
But the cuts and mass firings within the federal government under the Trump administration have come for the Weather Service and its parent agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
When you hear a tornado warning, for example, or a severe thunderstorm warning, that warning wasn't issued by your Yahoo weather app. That warning wasn't issued by the local TV station or radio station where you might have heard it. That warning was issued by a trained, experienced forecaster at the National Weather Service.
That there is also a movement right here in Illinois to create a new state. Voters in 33 counties have said they want to explore making a new state without Chicago and Cook County. Lawmakers in our neighboring state of Indiana have also inserted themselves into this conversation, proposing to annex some of the would-be breakaway counties.
He needs to stop saying that we are one Illinois. We aren't, and we haven't been for a long time.
So it's been exactly 5 years since Governor J.B. Pritzker announced COVID-19 stay-at-home orders.
I think so many people are eager to move on and forget kind of what was a really strange and singular time in recent history. But for some people, like those who lost loved ones during COVID, they can't move on so easily.
The people of Illinois have spoken, and what's old is new again. Illinoisans, or at least a plurality of the people who voted in our flag contest, say no to a new state flag, or at least no to the 10 designs put up for a vote by the State Flag Commission. No, the voters said, the current flag is adequate.
As the process went along, I became more enamored with the current flag maybe than I was before, having never really thought about the concept.
Since the 1970s, federal law has said students with disabilities have the right to a free, appropriate public education. The Department of Education has enforced that law, making sure students have what they need in their schooling. The attempts to break up the department and the cuts that have already happened have sparked worries about whether students can get that support, even if the president says those functions will be preserved in other departments.
My biggest concern then is where is going to be the accountability. I've not read or heard anything about the accountability of funding. So for that young man that we just heard, or for my son, how do I know that once that money is given to each state, that he is going to continue to receive the same funding that pays for the services under the IDA grant?
Senior national security officials were sharing what seems to be classified information on an encrypted but public messaging app, discussing attack plans that should probably not be shared on a public messaging app. The Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation. It has officially gotten back ancestral land in DeKalb County. Say more about that.
For the first time, ever, the state of Illinois had federally recognized tribal land, which is obviously fascinating from so many perspectives, on top of, literally Illinois being, named after a confederation of native nations.
Yet another figure in Illinois politics is now at the center of a federal corruption trial. State Senator Emil Jones III of Chicago is accused of taking bribes from a red light camera company.
Here in the 21st state, the University of Chicago says 7 of its students' visas were revoked. Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville says 8 students have lost their status. Northern Illinois University in DeKalb says 5 students are leaving. Other universities, Northwestern, Illinois State, Western Illinois, SIU Carbondale, have all confirmed cancellation of student visas.
Well, we've heard from international students and international graduate workers that these actions are just causing a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear.
As we go to air, tributes are pouring into the Vatican. Pope Francis has died at age 88. The first pontiff from the Americas charmed the world with his humble style and concern for the poor, but alienated many conservatives with critiques of capitalism and climate change.
And we begin with a tragedy in Chatham, Illinois. Illinois, just outside Springfield. That is where a vehicle drove through an after-school facility. 4 young people were killed, ranging in age from 7 to 18. 6 others were injured. Late last week, on Friday afternoon, word came that former Illinois Governor George Ryan had died. He was 91 years old. A pharmacist by training, his career in public service took him from state representative to Speaker of the Illinois House to Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, and ultimately Governor. Pope Leo XIV was announced to the world yesterday. Catholics rejoiced, but Illinoisans lost their minds. That's because Pope Leo is Robert Francis Prevost from the south suburbs of Chicago.
Habemus Papam.
Today we're focusing on the St. Louis area, talking about the tornado that passed through the region 1 week ago today, what happened, what went wrong, and how the city is recovering. During this event, 5 people were killed, dozens of others were injured. There was also damage reported on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, carrying out arrests in Chicago, and the response to that here in Illinois and beyond.
Illinois follows the law, but let me be clear, we expect the federal government to follow the law too.
Over the weekend, President Trump's military parade took place in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, many more people turned out for protests that took place in cities across Illinois and around the nation under the banner, No Kings.
No kings, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear.
Today we're going to talk about what Nippon's ownership of U.S. Steel means for the 950 or so steelworkers in Granite City.
We're a very productive facility. When U.S. Steel took us over in 2003, they had every intention of shutting this mill down, then kind of peeled us apart from the other national facilities and realized then that, hey, when we're asked to make product, we do it and we do it well. You know, our hope is that maybe Nippon would see the same thing.
Well, it's finally happened. Late last week, Republicans in Congress approved President Trump's request to claw back more than 2 years' worth of funding for public radio and television stations.
I think, the bottom line message is we're resolved to get through this. And, the future of public media is probably more in the public's hands than ever before.
And that was the case in Mattoon earlier this month. The city and the surrounding area recently dealt with an algae bloom that contaminated the drinking water.
It's been a struggle, We've been sanitizing the machine. As a matter of fact, some of our machines have all been sanitized, and then, of course, they put the order back in. So everything we did was for naught now. So we're going to have to re-sanitize everything.
K-Pop Demon Hunters is the most successful original movie on Netflix. And wouldn't you know it, the lead voice actress for K-Pop Demon Hunters has roots here in Illinois.
At University of Illinois, I actually ended up meeting a ton of international students and a lot of really cool other Korean Americans and being like, wait, you guys are like me. Your parents are Korean? My parents are Korean. I think I'm Korean.
And today we're spending the hour on Charlie Kirk. Born and raised in the suburbs of Chicago, Kirk mostly skipped college in order to start a political organization that became a behemoth in American conservatism. Charlie Kirk was shot to death at a political rally this week. He was 31 years old, he was married, he was the father of a very young son and daughter. Before we say goodbye, I want to note the death on Sunday of former Illinois Governor Jim Edgar, who led our state through most of the 1990s. President Donald Trump has been threatening to send the National Guard into Chicago. For now, he seems to have backed down from deploying soldiers here, but he is keeping another aspect of what happened in L.A. and D.C., stepped-up activity by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Officials are calling it Operation Midway Blitz. As justification, or maybe they'd call it a tribute, authorities have cited the case of Katie Abraham, who was killed in a drunk driving crash earlier this year in Urbana by someone who did not have legal permission to be in the U.S.
I think what we're seeing with Midway Blitz is that this is an escalation that has been ongoing for the past few weeks. There's clearly an increased presence of ICE agents, or just in general, federal agents.
As you've probably heard by now, the federal government ran out of spending authority at 11 p.m. Illinois time yesterday. It's the first full shutdown since 2019 during President Trump's first administration. On Wednesday, after more than 11 hours of deliberation, a Peoria jury found former Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson guilty of second-degree murder. This was in the killing of Sonia Massey in her home near Springfield last year. For the first time since the program's inception in 1964, money for the federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program has run dry. You might recall that the main reason the shutdown happened in the first place was a fight over whether or not to extend enhanced tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. These were added during the pandemic, but with an expiration date this year. And that will significantly raise the price of health insurance, not just for people who get coverage through the ACA, but it's also expected to affect those on employer-based plans as well. And that was our listen back to the year 2025 as we heard it here on the 21st Show. More to come after a short break. Stay with us.